Yeah, this is Mark Hoosier, Vice President of Operations for Barry-Wehmiller Flexible Systems, and
Frank McKernan, Vertical Value Stream Leader at Barry-Wehmiller Flexible Systems.
we're about to work with the Greenville chapter of the Apex Group to talk through a book of Everybody Matters by Bob Chapman, our CEO, and we hope you enjoy the show. Okay. Not real technical. And the presentation is not real technical. So for those of you who are coming hoping to see a formula, followed by calculations and spreadsheets, I apologize. Maybe some more dessert would be in order. But we're going to head down the people side of things tonight. And it's not going to be particularly slide heavy. I think there's 18 slides in total, and a third of them are probably just stock slides to tell you who the company is and what the topic is. Okay, more of this is going to be interactive, and I want everybody to be thinking about in the beginning of this what you want to take away at the end of it. And by takeaway, I mean, what do you want to go back to work tomorrow? I had to make sure today wasn't Friday. What do you want to go back to work tomorrow and do differently? Does that make sense? And what do you want to take back tomorrow and do differently in the vein of everybody matters? That make sense? Questions before we start? All right. Use the arrows to advance. So, Barry-Wehmiller Flexible Systems is part of a nearly $3 billion organization called Barry-Wehmiller, incorporated out of St. Louis, Missouri, headquarters, with however many factories it says here, 81 acquired companies all over the world. Barry-Wehmiller Flexible Systems is $180 million worth of that. With locations here in America, in Duncan, South Carolina, Green Bay, Wisconsin, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Vicenza and Padova, Italy, Nottingham, England, Zellik, Belgium, and Terneuzen, Holland. I lead the operations in those sites. Translation, I go around to a lot of sites, as I was telling some folks over here, and try to remember what doing real work looks like, right? What we make is OEM packaging machinery of all different types of packaging, from rigid, things like cardboard, to flexible. Flexible Systems makes machinery that makes flexible packaging. So potato chip bags, salads in a bag, block cheese wrapped in cellophane type material. We make equipment that does that and sell it to the people who package their machinery. Something else that's kind of important on this slide, when we start talking about the value of people and making people feel like they matter because they do, a lot of folks think that's instead of, or we are foregoing some amount of profit in order to do that, right? And so I just point you to the section here, which is a little blurry, but says that we've had compounded growth since 1987 of 18% revenue and 16% share price. Not bad, considering. Year on year. Some years are better than others, right? Questions? And jump in anytime, all right? Our mantra or motto is we measure success by the way we touch the lives of people. That's in our vision documents. It applies whether we're talking about safety, whether we're talking about our building trust with our customers, whether it talks about what we're doing with our team members or our team members' families. We measure success by the way we touch the lives of people. And from some Gallup polls, the #1 determinant of happiness is a good job. And a good job is meaningful work among people we care about. How do you feel about that? This is where the interaction starts. Who knows the golden rule? Thank you. So, for those of you who excel at interacting, or at least for the first 12 of you do, we have a copy of the book, Everybody Matters.
Awesome.
Thank you. And your new profession, right? Reading. And coming here, apparently. So do unto others as
You would have it.
right? It's fairly close.
You want a book?
What if I told you that that golden rule is flawed? Not to take away the validity of your answers. What if I told you the golden rule was flawed? What would you say?
Tell me how.
Who agreed? Darius.
Yeah, you treat people the way they want to be treated, not the way you want to be treated.
Did everybody hear that?
Oh, very good.
So treat others the way they would have you treat them. How can you, now why would you be bold and underlined? This one's not worth a book, but why would the you be bold and underlined?
You need to cater to their needs, be understanding who they are, not you.
Yes, yes, okay, so that one was worth a book. But that wasn't the answer to the why would the you be underlined. The you is underlined because I'm talking about each and every one of you. You specifically, the person sitting in the chair, looking at me going, don't call on me, there's a camera running. What can you specifically do differently? And what was your name again?
Jackson.
Jackson. What did you say, Jackson?
I said just caring about people, who they are, listening, which is a big one. Listening to who they are.
Yeah, caring about people and listening to who they are. How can I treat others the way they would have me treat them if I don't have a clue about who they are and how they would have me treat them? You take the opportunity to learn about them, yes.
You ask them.
You ask them. So if you have a way to note for yourself, how are you going to figure out how the people around you at work and in your community would have you treat them? What are you going to do differently starting tomorrow with that in mind?
Ask questions.
Pay attention to how they communicate.
Ask questions.
Ask questions.
Be intentional and slow down as you're listening.
Be intentional and slow down as you're listening.
Check Facebook.
And check out Facebook. I'm going to get back to work tomorrow and I'm going to surf Facebook. That's what I'm doing differently. Let's catch that one on video, because I can say, hey, you know that guy, he was a VP, he told me to do it. Totally. This is what I'm doing. Right? Yeah. The golden rule is self-centered. Sorry, Ma. I understand it. I know why you told me it, but that was a pretty self-centered piece of advice. The platinum rule, I hope platinum's still more valuable than gold. The platinum rule is other-centric. So I shift my focus from me to others if I try to figure out how they would have me treat them. And I do that by listening to them. Make sense? And that is the start of your journey to seeing that everybody matters. So, Bill Urey. Someone want to read that quote?
Listen to the great about
Yeah, thank you. And Bill Urey was a contributor to Everybody Matters. Where empathy and peace prevail, if we would only listen. Now, what is empathy?
Basically, putting yourself in someone else's shoes.
Putting yourself in someone else's shoes so you can feel what they feel, right? In its highest form, I feel what you feel just because you feel it. If I went to a funeral for somebody I didn't know, but I knew his son, and when I went through the receiving line, I was okay. I didn't know the person. As soon as I got to Mike, I saw his face, I literally started to cry. I was feeling the loss just because he was feeling the loss. I think that's empathy. Make sense? All right, Frank?
Thanks, Mark. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how we bring this concept of everybody matters to life at BW Flexible Systems every day. And the main way is through our mission control room. But I'm going to give you a little bit of background so you don't just think we stepped into mission control. Tell you a little bit about how we got there. So the guiding principles of leadership, we measure success by the way we touch the lives of people. It's kind of the founding concept that sets the tone for leadership behavior at Barry Way Miller Companies. So it's about creating dynamic environment based on trust, encouraging your team, setting measurables so that they know when they're winning. So those are the kind of the key things that we think about as leadership behaviors. As Barry Way Miller started to embrace lean, we really wanted to look at it from a people-centric way. And so we created what's called the Living Legacy of Leadership. So that's our lean journey we call our L3 journey. But we really, in that document, just like our guiding principles, we talk about how do we put people at the center of lean. So it's about connecting team members to a vision, setting measurables and metrics that are important to those team members so that they know when they're winning. So not just looking at margin, maybe looking at specific performance of a metric that they own, specific deliverable of a milestone that they own. From L3, we start to shift a little bit to customer trust. That talks about, in our daily execution, where's the right place to put the customer? So front and center, and it's bringing those lean principles and our guiding principles of leadership into those things. So our core four, there's a longer list of things, but the core four things that we focus on are project communication, so having a good plan, keeping the customer informed, project leadership, having someone who owns that relationship, strategic risk management, so understanding when we have a risky project coming into the business, how do we mitigate that up front before it becomes a bigger problem later? And then an operational excellence foundation. And part of that operational excellence foundation is our mission control room, so the MCR. So we try to create a dynamic, empathetic environment where these elements come to life in our business. So this is really where our team gets together on a daily basis, and we try to connect them back to that vision to make sure that they know that they matter. So for work to be meaningful, the work is important enough. Team members need to know that their work is important enough for others to help them with their problems. So the frontline assembly person needs to know they can bring a problem to this meeting, and they're going to get the help they need in the time that they need it in order to be successful and keep their job going online. And to be among people we care about is to listen and to be heard. So again, bringing the team together on a daily basis, you see each other, you can have direct communication, make sure that your needs being met, that you understand the needs of your peers. So what is it? It's really about daily tactical execution, gathering the cross-functional team. Seeking to understand is a key thing. So when I started at Hasten 3 years ago, you'd find a lot of, I have an issue, okay, we'll put it in a log and we'll put it on SharePoint, and maybe someone will get to it at some point before you retire, hopefully, but you can't promise that. we really focus on what's the miss, here's an issue, what is causing the miss, how do we fix it so that miss doesn't happen again? That was a major shift for us in terms of getting people bought into Mission Control Room, connecting them and letting them believe and feel like it's okay to, hey, here's my problem, I know I'm going to get help with it, rather than, here's my problem, I don't know if I will ever get help with that. Culture of service, so again, putting the customer first. It's also not just about thinking about our external customers, but the next person in line in our value stream operation. So an engineer turning a correct bill of materials over to a planner, planner getting parts planned correctly so that assembly has them when they need them. Those are all internal customers, and the stakes are just as high in your performance related to that customer as it is to the external customer. And building trust. So a lot of this is about winning, getting good wins, but it's also about building relationships, making sure that people feel connected, working together, pulling in the same direction for common goals.
I've got a question on the mission control room.
Yes, sir.
When first a person has a problem, is it posted so people, other individuals know that it's there too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about the evolution of the room, but yes, we do post it. So how can you start controlling the mission? And I played football through high school and college, so that's the lens I tend to see the world through. So I've got some football graphics, but this is kind of the view that if you're leading a mission control room meeting, you're the quarterback, you've called a play, you see the whole field, and you understand kind of what's happening. Oh, risk. Supplier's late. Another risk. Defect, overruns line. Another risk, I've got short a crew on a line. Big risk, suppliers missing their commitments are going to be a month late. Oh, hey, here's a problem. This looks like we have a deviation here. Let's do an A3. Let's investigate that a little bit more and dig into it. So those are things that daily when I'm leading a touch meeting or mission control room meeting for my team, this stuff happens on all of our projects day to day. And it's understanding that, listening to what they're saying, what the real issue is, and then getting people in a position to help them solve that. So that's the role of kind of a quarterback of a mission control room meeting. It's the way we operate. The other thing you do is call audibles. So you ever see, here's Clemson, those big cards, all those are different plays. You start with one, and the quarterback sees something that's not right, you got to check out of a play. You got to get to something different. You have to change your plan in order to keep the project and your team going. So understanding that and being able to look at a 10,000-foot view of not what only is going on in that project, but what are the other needs of your projects and customers going on. Of course, you could just decide to quit the team and leave school and transfer to another school if you want to do that. That was a dirty, cheap shot, no doubt about it. Absolutely. Sorry, I couldn't help it. What are the key MCR behaviors? So if you're in a mission control room meeting, or if you are working with team members, what are some things that you can do? Anticipate the needs of the customer. So if you have a meeting, come prepared. Understand what you needed to action the day before. Come into that meeting ready to give a meaningful update that moves the ball forward. Have a bias for action. That's really one of the most important things, is rather than putting something on a list and calling it done, stepping up, taking action, getting to root cause of a problem, moving the ball forward. Adjust and grow. So you need to be able to take feedback, take critical feedback sometimes and grow from it there. Understand that mistakes happen. We don't beat people over the head when a mistake happens. It's a learning opportunity. You got to fix it. You got to fix it so it doesn't happen again. But make the process adjustment. Get it right. Don't let it happen again. And then replace deadly human behaviors with accountability behaviors. This is probably the most challenging thing that I face day to day in a mission control room meeting. Getting away from, blame throwing or recreational complaining. Oh, these parts are never going to be here on time ever. Well, what's the specific part you need? Who have you asked for help with? What's the thing we can do? What is the thing that's causing a flow stoppage for you? Be specific. Change the way that you communicate about the issue, and you can get more meaningful help. So one of the ways we did that, and this is kind of to your question about how are we capturing stuff. When we started Mission Control, we were actually out in an open hallway with a magnetic whiteboard, and we put up schedules with the milestone schedules, and would barely had room to write an issue, and then we said, boy, we're getting all these issues now, what do we do with them? I came up with this red issue ticket, it took me 5 minutes to create it, we used hundreds of them. And what I found was the first couple weeks we used them, people were like, whatever, it's just like a red ticket on a board, like who cares? And as you start knocking a couple of these out and coming back the next day and reporting, hey, Mike, I took care of your issue, we got those plates changed, shouldn't have to deal with that again. The next day, he's like, okay, well, here's another one for you, try that. Right? And then you get a little tougher, and now you're kind of in a role, and other people that might have hung back in a meeting and said, I'm not going to get my problem solved ever because it's buried on a list, now have a visible sign of their problem. They know who's going to work on it, and they know the next day at 9 o'clock we're going to talk about it, and if the owner of the action didn't follow through, they're going to get the question, well, why didn't you follow through? What happened? What do we need to do? How do we get there? So we've kind of evolved from those white paper cards onto a laminated scorecard that we can just erase. So now issues go up on a kind of a dry erase marker on this laminated scorecard. Get them up, next day you get them off, you erase them, you're on to the next one. Keep things moving. All right, back to Mark.
So, before we get to this next one, how many people have some kind of a daily meeting that they attend where they work today? Less, what, about a third of us here maybe? In that meeting, so where are the people that raise their hands again? Okay, for of you, leave your hand up if that meeting's useful for you. A couple hands went down, not too many, that's good. Then leave your hand up if you feel like the people in the meeting feel like they matter for being there.
All of them?
Does it say most people matter, or does it say everybody matters? It's okay, I'm hoping to see, I'm not trying to hope that all the hands go down or anything like that. For those of you that don't have daily meetings, how many of you think a daily meeting would just be a waste of time? Why?
Maybe like a periodical.
Maybe a periodical meeting would be a better answer. Why would a daily meeting be a waste of time?
In my case, my design staff is in Canada, my buyers are in Mexico, my customer service is in Arizona, and I build it in North Carolina.
Yeah. So, we're so far apart, we don't need to communicate.
No.
We haven't figured out how. So, the absence of a real functional venue would make the meeting a waste of time. The act of daily communication may not be, but we don't know how to make it useful.
It's more, how do you get everybody to buy in and not say, that's his problem, Nick.
Great. Good insight. Who else? Why would a daily meeting be a waste of time? We wouldn't be prepared because it would be too often. What do you mean by we wouldn't be prepared?
Things change. Well, meetings every day. It's one of their places to check.
So let me feed that back to you in something of a sarcastic way. Things change so quickly that we couldn't possibly talk to each other every day to let each other know what's going on.
Well, we can talk to each other, but it doesn't have to be a formal meeting.
Oh, okay. So we'd rather just have a hallway conversation and hope that we catch up with everybody that's important in that hallway conversation. There you go. What else?
Sometimes it can be the same old thing being talked about, and people lose interest, and feel like nothing really is accomplished.
Why does it become the same old thing? What?
I think people don't want to say used to have a weekly. And people, like, it was everybody, it was the office, in our department, with our manager, and the people on the floor. And they just, everybody was like, because it was the same old thing, they say what they were working on.
Oh, it was a what I did over the summer meeting.
Well, what they're working on a production line.
Okay, yeah.
And it's just the same old, you know, it's I think it's our manager.
Yeah, and that's an interesting phenomenon. If the meeting is, here's what I did since the last meeting, who is that meeting for?
My boss.
It's for the boss. That's the only person that's showing up for that meeting looking to gain something. I want to do what? Check up on you. Make sure that you're making progress. If instead the meeting is to say, all of you people doing real work on the product our customers are buying from us, tell me what's in your way, how can I help? Who is that meeting for? Yeah. How many people here are leaders? It's a trick question. Why is it a trick question? What? Yeah, there's a book. Why are we all leaders?
Because we all interact and have people that we need something to do.
Yeah.
Great video online, by the way.
Do I look younger than I did online? Now, how many people are not buying the "we're all leaders" thing?
Just all hands up.
Yeah, good. Good. You better not raise your hand. Yeah, we're all leaders because something we do every day is at a minimum observed by someone else, and our behavior influences others. So we are all leaders and we all have the capacity to lead. That makes sense? Another thought here, when you think about the culture of my business. This was a cool definition I got through a person who got it through a person who got it through a person, so I have no idea where this comes from. But it's the best definition of culture I've ever heard. Culture is the sum, formula people, culture is the sum of our individual behaviors. If I put a new person on the team, what does culture do? Changes. New sum. If I want to change culture tomorrow, what can I do? I could fire everybody. Probably not worth the book, but I like it. Remember when the U was underlined? All right. I can change myself, right? Because culture is what? The sum of our individual behaviors. If I change what I do, I just change the sum. Right? If I change what I do to pay a little more attention to someone else, to listen to them where maybe yesterday I didn't, I've moved the culture maybe just a little bit more toward everybody mattering. I may have moved myself more toward being an other-centered leader.
Aren't you changing the average more than the sum?
Let's do the math.
It's like, I don't know, you said changing a little bit, and someone was over here, everyone else is over here, and that person added, slightly the average closer to where that person.
Okay. You like that better?
I agree.
Then give him a book. No, does that make sense? And that's where trust exists. When you can speak truth to power, because if you can't, you may never get that obstacle out of the way. Or if they can't, You may never be able to help them get that obstacle out of the way.
Comment.
Yes.
I've heard it before, I've been in the military. As soon as an officer becomes a general, it's the last time that he or she will ever be told the truth. It's the first thing they tell generals when they come to class.
Wow.
Which is saying, people speak truth to power, but it's reversed because they will never tell the general the truth anymore.
How awful would that be?
Exactly. But that's the first comment they make.
Right. Yeah. That's a fear. Paycheck is your thanks. Moves to recognition is your most abundant resource. What does recognition as your most abundant resource mean? It's free. Costs nothing to recognize somebody. How many people have recognized someone in the last week? Good ears. I told my husband I was wrong. I would never tell that. Yeah, it doesn't cost anything, but you know what? We're usually so busy that we're not paying attention enough to notice. That's my theory. Take time to notice, and you will fuel the people around you with energy to do great work.
Well, those national bosses, we reverse it and recognize our bosses.
Did we? Did anyone reverse it and recognize their boss? What do you mean by reversing?
Usually, I would like to get a pat on the shoulder. You do that the other way around.
You told that to Alfred?
No, he's not.
Yeah.
You never ignored me.
So, just for recognizing bosses. But, you know, one of the things we forget is that leaders are just people. They're just people. Why should we treat them any different than someone without that on their business card? If, what called again?
Should say team.
Is team everybody? Everybody matters. No. There's no exclusion. Yeah. Making sense? We'll just rattle through some others. Initiative is rewarded as opposed to risks being avoided in an environment of trust. Moving from approval is required to people are accountable, meaning people choose to take ownership for their decisions. I can't assign accountability. Someone must choose to take it. I can assign responsibility. Accountability is choice. Leaders start with I when trust does not exist, because I did all these great things, versus leaders start with we where trust exists, recognizing we are part of the team and together we will accomplish greatness, right? People move from being nervous when a leader is near to just going about their business. And people, when trust doesn't exist, I'm afraid to say, I don't know. What's the answer? I won't make something up, because I sure can't say I don't know. And we move to, it's okay to be vulnerable and to be honest and say, I don't know, I'll look into it, I need help, I'll get back to you, whatever that is when there's a question. Being afraid to say I don't know means it takes a whole lot longer to solve problems than recognizing and admitting that I don't know and getting help and getting that thing fixed, whatever it is. And we move from being spoken to being listened to. We're coming to the last couple of slides here, 2 or 3 slides, but someone read that paragraph for us. I'm tired of hearing read up for.
Everyone wants to do better. Trust them. Leaders are everywhere. Find them. People achieve good things, big and small, every day. Celebrate them. Some people wish things were different. Listen to them. Everybody matters. Show them.
How's that read? Thank you.
She deserves a vote.
I've been trying for so long.
Now what does Yoda say about trying?
There is no
You're
try.
either trying.
There is only,
No, you
you got a book already, right?
Did I get a second one?
No try, just do or do not. There's no try. And you did. You did not try.
I recognized my doctor this afternoon. She did an excellent job of explaining the machine interworking. I never knew about all that.
Oh, yeah. That's cool. Recognizing a doctor for helping me as the patient understand what's going on. My words, right? How often does that happen? Take 2 of these, goodbye. What is it? Take it with food? Oh, that's the pharmacist. Right? You should shine the light into every corner of your organization to find those individuals toiling away in relative obscurity and celebrate the everyday greatness of each person. We often celebrate the hero who solved the problem that never should have happened, instead of celebrating the hero who prevented that problem from ever happening. They're the ones toiling away in relative obscurity. Find the problem preventers and recognize them. They're not the one with the cape on. This is an example of one of the several recognition programs that we have in our business where the sales team who are out selling recognize someone inside the business without whom they could not have achieved that sale. Goes a long way toward breaking down the us and them between sales and operations. Because you couldn't sell another one if the last one you sold didn't get delivered well, and there wouldn't be a next one to deliver if we didn't sell it. Make sense? Sometimes you have to formalize recognition to get people over the rarity, the unnaturalness of recognizing somebody different. Different kinds of things to recognize, just food for thought. And then some resources if you want to look up more or stay connected. So, there's a few books left, which I was hoping there would be, because I want to hear from anybody who has a takeaway that they're going to do something different starting tomorrow. What is it?
Okay, so I don't actually work at like a company or something like that. I do work at my school at Anderson University. So a lot of times, my employer, his name is Winfred Green. He's very like bubbly and very outgoing, and everyone always is like, or he's always like engaged and always helping out each other, like all of us and like his employees, and always like encouraging and understanding if you're late or something like that. But no one ever really gives him recognition. Like I've noticed that a lot. Like I've given him recognition like once or twice, but nothing to the point of like, hey, you're an amazing person. Like honestly, if you weren't one of like the people like mentors in my life, would I be the same person?
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But like a lot of people just say, oh, cool, hey, Winfred, can I get on this Frisbee team, or hey, because I do intramural stuff, so
Yeah.
hey, can I do this, can I do that? And like, non-majors recognize him as a leader, as a person.
Wow. That's great. Thank you. You're going to make a difference in his life, right?
Yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah, that's awesome.
He's made a difference in my life, so I'm just like, so.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Well,
Appreciate that. Who else?
I'm not gonna really do anything more. I struggle with. I just think people wise people. And I accept that. I have difficulty understanding something on the other side.
Just love to. What slides?
Go ahead, I'll tell you some stuff about the accountability. So I have trouble comprehending when it says accountability for their decisions. So every time that I think I hold people accountable,
You can't hold someone accountable.
you can't hold them.
You can hold them responsible.
Okay. Then why is the accountability on the right-hand side?
Because when trust exists, I'll let you know I own this thing. I got it. I will see it through the end. When it's on the left side, you've got to tell me that I still own it. And you've got to beat me up if it's not done.
But how do you get them to take accountability?
It's a great question.
That's what I struggle with.
The real question is, how do you get them?
Yeah, that's what I would really like to learn how to do. Is how do you get them to be accountable for their actions and their decisions?
So isn't communication skills taught as part of an APEX curriculum now or no? Thought I saw that. So a little advanced spot here for you. Can I motivate another person?
No.
Wow.
Eh.
Who argues with that answer? Why?
Because you can put things in place that they will reap rewards and consequences, whether a negative reward or a positive reward, based on how you sell.
So what if I rephrase that to say that I can create an environment where someone will choose to motivate themselves or not, but I cannot actually make the choice for them. Cannot motivate.
But I can encourage them based on the environment they're.
Yeah. Now, this is Mark. How lucky I also am Mark. If you wanted to motivate this Mark, do you think you might do the exact same things as to motivate this Mark?
Not necessarily.
Because
Different marks.
we're different Marks. So remember the golden rule changes to the platinum rule? So the best way to create an environment where, and in your question, Zach, someone might choose to own something, is to understand who that person is and what environmental factors I can affect, where I would create an environment where that person is most likely to choose to take ownership and drive that thing forward. Which means, I've got to listen. How awful is that? Which also means I've got to do that on kind of a one-to-one basis. It's real hard to motivate 50 people all at once because I can't motivate them at all, number one. And I've got to create an environment that all 50 of them want to make the same choice in? That's rough. Gonna need some help.
Sort of like Frank's example of the football team. If you go back to the Vince Lombardi days, he recognized that some people you have to pat on each other on the shoulder and that'll motivate them. Other people you gotta get in their face and chew them out. And that'll motivate them. And other people you gotta clock them over the head and do something else with them. And that'll motivate them. But you have to treat every person differently based on their
I like culture. I like the chewing out part.
Does this make sense? Yeah. To answer your question?
It makes sense, but it makes sense. I have difficulty executing it, and I'm not proud. I'll admit that that's one of my weaknesses. I have a hard time having people that I lead take accountability for their decisions and actions.
I know you said it in jest, but I would tell you that if your favorite of those choices was to beat somebody up, I'm not surprised that you have trouble getting the people that you need to take ownership. Because the first time they do and fail,
That's why I'm a professor.
they get their head chopped off.
It's not a lead manager.
Right? Here. All right.
I'm in my right profession.
As a matter of fact, you already ought to have one. I think you're gonna need it. Kidding, thank you for that. Two more.
Can you go back a little bit?
Yeah.
in Time, not on the slides, but back when Alice Green was initially moving, Bob Chapman brought to the Hexon office and kind of changed the culture.
Yeah.
How that was interpreted by the employees and things like that. I mean, it was kind of a rude awakening in a way, if you will.
You know, I'm gonna say something here. That was before my time.
Oh,
You might remember it. Because you were there before I was.
yes.
Do you remember it happening, or was it before you got there?
No, I
too?
remember how he walked in and almost the day he took ownership of the company, the first thing he did was eliminate time cards, removed all the doors, took down the walls in the staff room and eliminated the doors there so that people could be trusted. Defined break times for the hourly employees went away, and if you wanted coffee, go get coffee, whatever type of situations. Everybody was equal, everybody came in the same entrance, and all that kind of good stuff. An incredible transition, and it went, the fact that the employees were previously required to punch in, punch out, every time they moved, they had to do something, they had to check with their supervisor, all that kind of good stuff. And like it was a culture shock. You know, I mean, they were looking like, what in the world are we doing now in that situation? But ultimately, they got to the point where they realized that they were treated equally to everybody. It didn't matter if you were in an office job, if you were a vice president, or if you were a leader of some kind, or just an assembler on the floor someplace, that the power was with everybody. They accepted differences. Quite a transition.
Yeah, if I feel trusted, I'm much more likely to care back. Right?
Yeah, and the profits went soaring, and the work efforts went soaring. It's just a total transition.
Yeah, and that's interesting. You know, I don't think either one of us ever has to ask or push really hard for a team member to say, I'll go the extra mile, what do you need? And that's the kind of place I want to work at. I don't want to be the guy who's got to storm in with my stick and prod people to get the job done.
You also look at the other rewards in the board too, the recognition awards that Mr. Chapman brought in with the Corvette, or various things that you drive for a week or something.
Oh, they just give them to us now. You left early. We've all got one. It's no thing.
You got him some other board.
Yeah, no, so one of the things Jeff's referring to, there's a program, there's a few of them, 3 or 4 in total, that kind of makes the rounds to all businesses in Barry Wehmiller in a year. And depending on the need, a lot of it is for you know, representing the culture of the organization, being an outstanding team member. You're awarded a fancy car for a week with a gas card, because fancy cars chew up a lot of gas, to drive for a week. And it's like, well, you drive a car for a week? Yeah, but when you pull into your driveway with that car, right, what happens? Oh, Mark got a Corvette, because it's loud. I mean, it's not like you get quiet. There's an 850i or something like that, convertible BMW, that thing sweetest.
So what is it like?
What?
Um,
I'll never tell.
There's some beautiful cars, but they're not cars that any of us really are going to drive home. So when we drive them home, people ask. And our spouses go for rides in them, and our families, and they ask. And it gives us all an opportunity to share with people outside of work about what great thing we've done at work. And we end up getting recognized, not just by the people at work, but by our families and our neighbors and other people in our communities, and finding kind of outside the box ways to recognize people to where it really means something to them. It means something to their families. It really takes that to the next level. Something I've never seen anywhere else. It's pretty neat.
So you have no turnover?
We have
No turnover.
We have very low turnover, actually. We don't have no turnover. But we've got, it's funny, I forget the years now, but there was a time where there were two groups of people, and then there was everybody else, but there was the 30-year group and the 15-year group. And the 30-year group were the group of people that moved when the plant relocated from Wisconsin. And the 15-year group were the people that all got hired when it was built here. And there were these two just huge masses of people, and the tenure there is extraordinary. The scary thing is someday, that big group of people is all gonna leave, retire, yeah, at pretty close to the same time, you know, plus or minus a couple of years probably. That's how you fix that, you know. But there's a lot of knowledge and experience there. But it really is a fairly low turnover organization. What's nice is the organization is growing. We were like a $60 million organization when I was hired in 2007, and we're around $180 million now, and we've had 2 factories, and we now have 8. And so that creates a lot of opportunity. So people will also move to other opportunities, which creates new opportunities for people. How long have you been with this part of the organization?
3 years.
3 years, but with Barry White Miller for 13. So it's, you know, even around Barry White Miller, we move and find opportunities for growth, which is great. 2 more. What are you going to do tomorrow?
Let's leave.
You said you were just going to read a book. Yeah.
So I'm not a manager or a supervisor, but I'm a production planner, and I deal with 2 different production lines, and I'm pretty much their only contact in a lot of ways. So I think I'm going to really think about this and recognize the people I deal with, because I think it'll go a long way.
That's great. Thank you. And it'd be good next month, just to take a little time during the socializing part before the presenter, to just share with each other what you did since this meeting. Last book.
I'm gonna buy some coffee.
Buy some coffee.
At Starbucks behind me on the behind.
Pay it forward. Yeah.
I think you should keep the book. You've done a great job.
Thank you. I've got this book. Thank you.
Well, for me, it's hard because see, I'm the ghostwriter of that book. Because a lot of this is what I do, and that's why a lot of my staff does each turn. Because where I'm at now, I've only been there 3 months, and there's been this huge change that everybody in the system's already noticed. Because a lot of these things go a long way with how you act with people, how you listen to them, how you treat them. So just seeing what the feedback I've gotten from individuals doing this stuff really does make a difference.
So what's the first thing you did 3 months ago when you got there to start that change?
Well, first, I actually just go into my analytical mode and just kind of observe and see what's going on. And then I start forming and interacting with employees to figure out, okay, this is what I've observed. Tell me about the history. Tell me about what's your connection with it, and what are some obstacles that you've had, and what do you need fixed. And just it's amazing how if you do little things for people, it really makes them feel like you care. I know, like, one of my warehouse employees who kind of runs the storeroom, I gave her the opportunity to be the owner. And she lit up like a Christmas tree, because she's like, wow, I've always had all these struggles and everything. You're actually giving me the chance to be my own person over this warehouse instead of me getting frustrated and knowing what's going on. So for me, it's a huge difference. So I can tell you,
And less work.
So thank you for making a difference.
I'm like, yeah, I know this stuff works. So it really makes me feel
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, one question. So I think the whole point is based on your platform, you know the other people, so you can treat them as the way they want. So how about like situation like this? I am your colleague. I don't speak fluent English. I'm shy, and I don't want to share. So what do we do?
So I still work to get to know you. I have colleagues in Italy, in Belgium, in the Netherlands. I go there and I don't speak fluent any of those languages. I do speak food. Yeah, and I just work hard to get to know you. I have to change me. I can't expect you to change. For example, one of the things I might do, let's say we're working together on a project, and this is how I got to know a little bit about Frank. He and I are very opposite in our approach to work. Because I would walk in with no data, and I would say, hey, let's make a decision. What do you think about this issue? And Frank would go, and all it took was that for me to go, he's one of those data people. I'll bet you he also likes to think a little bit before he jumps. That is so not like me. He's different than me, and I appreciate that. I don't just recognize it, I appreciate it.
That's a true story.
Right? And so even if we're not talking a lot, I can understand from your behaviors and paying attention what your preferences are. And I can tailor my behaviors when I work with you to meet you at least halfway. Does that make sense? Good question. Good English. I'm out of books. Take Zach's, he got up. Any other questions for Frank or I? No? Great, thank you for having me. If you need us.